Believe it or not, mastering just 7 confusing English words could totally change how you communicate. It's true. So, actually, I'll be honest with you, tying a bow tie kind of reminds me of English vocabulary. I know it's a bit of a stretch, but really, it's not because it's complicated, but because one tiny twist can change everything. I've coached professionals for years, and even the most confident speakers, including native speakers, get tripped up by word pairs that sound similar but actually mean completely different things. For example, I once had a client write, "I look forward to meeting your principal tomorrow." Well, he spelled it principal with a P-L-E at the end, which is not correct. He meant principal, P-A-L, that's the person, not principle, P-L-E, that's the rule or idea. And that one little tiny spelling difference completely changed the meaning of what he's saying. And honestly, look, one word can turn a message from clear to confusing just like that. Just like one wrong fold could turn this bow tie into a lopsided disaster. So, now that I've got this thing tightened up, now it's time to tighten up your English. Today we're going to fix some of the most commonly confused English word pairs once and for all. And stick around. The Mastery Minute at the end is a good one. I'll give you a phrase that you can use today to guide a conversation back on track. And if you've got questions about confusing word pairs or anything else, drop them in the chat. And I will answer a few live at the end. And hey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this to help other people improve their English communications. Are you ready to dive in? Me too. All right, let me tell you about Lena. Lena is a brilliant designer that I coached, but one day she sent an email to her boss saying, "Your new idea really complements our project." Now, in speech, you'd never know the difference because compliment and compliment sound exactly the same. But in writing, that single letter, I or E, changes the whole meaning. So her boss replied, "Well, gee, thanks for the kind words, but did you mean it completes our project?" That is what Lena meant. She meant complement with an E, as in it goes well with or it completes it. It's a totally innocent mistake, but the moment she realized how different the meanings were, that's when it clicked for her. She never made that mistake again. And that's why these little pairs matter. It could be borrow and lend, advice or advise, affect versus effect. They show up everywhere, especially in writing, where spelling carries the meaning. But sometimes context also carries the meaning. Some of these words are nouns and some of them are verbs. And if you use them in the wrong spot, well, it changes the meaning. So today, I'm going to give you some simple tricks, some clear explanations, some real examples to help you pick each pair properly. So, look, these are some of the most commonly confused words in English. Even fluent speakers or native speakers get messed up when they're typing too fast or even speaking the wrong, putting the words in the wrong spot. And here's why this matters. Small mistakes can change the meaning of your message. It can confuse your reader and make your writing or your speech feel less professional. So once you learn the simple trick behind each pair, you won't just avoid these errors, you'll communicate with clarity and confidence every time. Let's dive into it. So we're going to go through 7. So we're going to start with number 1, borrow versus lend. We're going to kick this off with a quick one, borrow and lend. These are 2 words that everybody knows, and it's all about the direction of the action. I get this all the time. People say the wrong thing all the time. But here's a simple way to remember. Borrow. To borrow means you're receiving something temporarily. So it's coming toward you. To lend means you give something temporarily. It goes away from you. Think of it that way. Now, here's a good example. I once had a neighbor who came out and asked me, "Hey, Dennis, can you borrow me your lawnmower?" Or, wow, I told him, "Well, no, I can lend it to you, but I can't borrow from myself," right? So that's the big difference. I'm lending you something and then you're going to give it back, or I'm borrowing something from you. All right? Simple, right? Now, past tense wise, borrow, we say borrowed, but lend is irregular. Lend, we say lent, not lended. All right? So remember, the trick is borrow is toward me, lend is away from me. All right, now that we've warmed up, let's tackle another pair that looks almost identical. Advice versus advise. Ooh, what's the difference here? Advice versus advise. So, excuse me, they look almost identical, right? But each one of these words behaves differently. These two words have confused more people than almost any other word pair that I've ever taught. First one, advice. Advice is with a C, and it's a noun. It's the thing that you give. Advice with an S is a verb. It's the action that you do, the thing you do. So think of it this way. Advice has an S, like say, all right? So it's because you're going to say something to help someone. Like, my advice is simple. Ask someone if you're not sure. And advise ends with that Z sound. So advice has a S sound. Advise has a Z sound at the end. So you might say, my advice is simple. Ask someone if you're not sure. And if you ask me, I'll advise you as best I can. All right? Now, that's pretty simple to remember, right? I'll advise you as best I can. Now, here's a trick. Advise sounds like realize. It's a verb. And one more thing. Advice, like say, is something that you say. Now, an extra note for you is that advice is uncountable. So you're never going to say advices. Instead, you say a piece of advice or some advice. Yeah, we never say advices. That's a big mistake I hear quite often. So now that we got that straight, let's jump into another pair that causes chaos in emails, especially when one letter completely changes the meaning. We talked about it briefly before. Compliment versus compliment. Sounds the same, right? They sound exactly the same. That's where people get tripped up. Compliment with an E means to complete something or to go well with something. Compliment with an I means to praise someone. So, someone once messaged me, "Hey, that tie compliments your outfit." But they spelled it the wrong way. They spelled it with an I. And I had to laugh because depending on the spelling, that's the sentence. It means two different things. So writing it with an E, it means the tie goes well with my outfit. Totally correct. But if they wrote it with an I, they're trying to say that the tie is complimenting my outfit. Yeah, doesn't really work, right? The tie is saying something nice to my outfit. It's the same pronunciation, but completely different meaning. Okay? So the quick trick here is to think of compliment with an E. It means complete. Complete compliment. All right? That'll help you out. All right. All right, let's keep this momentum going. The next pair might be the most famous troublemakers in English. Affect versus effect. Oh boy, we call this the desert island effect, because this causes so many headaches even for native speakers. All right? Everyone's going to bump into this sooner or later. All right, first of all, affect is a verb. So think with an A, that's an action. Effect is a noun. Notice how I'm pronouncing them a little bit more emphasis, but when you're speaking, they sound almost the same. So you might say something like, skipping coffee affected my energy. And the effect was me falling asleep in a meeting. Ever happened to you? That's a true story. It happened to me. And there are rare cases when effect can be a verb, but not very rare. You're not going to have to worry about that unless you're into researching academic papers or psychology journals or something like that. So just try to think. A for action, that's affect, and E for end result. End result. All right, now that we cracked that one, let's move on to raise versus rise. All right, let's keep it rolling. Keep it rolling. Excuse me. Now this one is simple. All right, raise is something that happens by itself. Rise needs a person to lift it. For example, prices rise, or we raised prices, or the sun rises every morning, or you raise your hand, just like the guy in the slide there. Raise your hand in the meeting. Companies raise prices by their decisions and stuff like that. Now, for past tense, rise has two forms. Rose, like the flower, or risen. He is risen, we say at church on Easter Sunday. Past tense for raise is regular, raised. Okay, two more. We got to go. Just remember, if someone is doing the lifting, it's raise. If it goes up on its own, it's rise. Next up is accept versus accept. Ooh. All right. Let's look at that. Accept versus accept. All right. So accept means you got one letter difference, actually two, but with two opposite meanings. Accept means to agree to receive, whereas accept means to exclude something. For example, you might say, I'll accept your invite, except the karaoke part. I'll come except the karaoke part. All right. We also have another expression, except for, and that makes it even clearer. Everyone finished on time except for Mike. So that makes it more detailed. It makes it like almost like a phrasal verb or phrasal noun. All right, final round. The internet's most common spelling mistake: lose versus loose. Ooh, all right. Ready? We're at the finish line. Lose versus loose. Quick breakdown. Lose. Lose. Lose means I can't find it, or I no longer have it. It's a verb. Versus loose means not tight. For example, don't lose your keys again. The screw is loose. Tighten it. Okay? You might say, in the past tense, you would say lost, because lose is my brain just stopped. Lose is an irregular verb, so you say lost for the past tense. And for the past tense of loose, you'd say loosed. And remember, if your shoelaces are loose, you might lose your shoes. You don't want to do that. It's confusing because you hear this ooze sound. You see loose, and it's almost spelled the same as choose, which is CHOOSE. Weird, right? But it's not. So that's why there's confusion. Lose, LOSE, and loose. And if you need help, just think loose. There's too much space. All right? That's why it's got those two extra O's. It's loose. Versus lose, it's just gone. It's gone. All right. That's 7 confusing pairs officially sorted. So let's wrap this one up with a simple reminder to tie everything together. And that is, don't assume meaning. Don't guess at what somebody's trying to say. And don't be afraid to ask for clarification. That's one of the keys to avoiding miscommunications overall. A quick question now can prevent a much bigger misunderstanding later. So don't be afraid to ask those questions. And let me give you a quick challenge for the next 24 hours. I want you to choose one confusing pair from tonight's episode. Use it in the next 24 hours. Not next week, not when you remember. Do it tomorrow. Because real communication skills grow through real conversations, even emails and messages, not just theory, not memorizing rules, but using the language. That's the key. And if you want to go deeper into that, my course, Mastering English for Busy Professionals, shows you how to improve your English in just 10 minutes a day. There's no textbooks, no boring grammar drills, just practical communication tools that you can use immediately. And you can also find the full blog at allaboutenglishmastery.com. The link's in the description. That's got more examples. And hey, if tonight helped you even a little, don't forget to like and subscribe and share this episode with someone who wants clearer, more confident English. It really helps the channel grow, and it helps more learners master their English with confidence. And now you know what time it is. It's time for the favorite minute of the show. We're a little bit late, so let's jump into the Mastery Minute. And the phrase of the day, well, let's just give you a quick upgrade for your English, right? The phrase of the day, have you ever heard someone say, don't split hairs? Well, here's the deal. Splitting hairs means arguing about tiny, almost invisible differences that don't actually change anything. And believe it or not, this phrase comes from old schools of philosophy and medieval scholars, people who would spend hours debating microscopic differences in definitions and logic and language. Some of these debates were so small that people started joking, what's next? Splitting a single hair? I mean, really, imagine it. So in modern parlance, we'd say, maybe imagine you've got two coworkers, they're arguing for 10 minutes whether a slide should say final report or the final report. It's the same meaning, but zero impact, and it's a total waste of time. That is the definition of splitting hairs. So when you know this phrase, you can politely guide a conversation back on track, especially when a discussion is drifting into tiny details that don't move the project forward. So next time you're in a conversation that gets stuck on microscopic differences, just say, guys, we're splitting hairs. Let's focus on the main point. All right? All right. That is all the time that we have for today, and that is a wrap on episode 92. Can you believe it? 92. Tonight we tackled the seven of the confusing English word pairs that mix learners up, and now you know exactly how to use each one with confidence. On Wednesday night, we're taking on something every learner struggles with, and that is challenging English pronunciation. So we're going to break down the tricky words that you hear all the time, but may still hesitate to stay. And if you want a head start on that, go ahead, check out the blog on my website. Can you pronounce these challenging English words correctly? Give yourself a little challenge. And remember, keep your bow tie straight and stay curious. I'm Dennis Wilborn, and I'll see you next time on 15-Minute Mastery.